Okay, and what are the frameworks you worked upon?
Spring Boot, Spring, Spring, what else? Spring Angular in the front end. My bat is Apache Camel, Apache Kafka. What else? REST. On REST I worked. Yeah, this is the technical stack.
Okay. So what are the main features in Java 8?
So main features that came up in Java 8 are like lambda expression streams, functional interface, and what else? A method reference that came in. There were some time API changes as well.
Okay. So why do we use Stream APIs?
Why do we use Stream API? That is for the performance purpose. Also, it is a bit faster than for each loop. So, and the code get hugely reduced here with the whatever predefined methods that are already coming up in Java 8. So it is easy to manipulate the data or to change the data.
Okay. Do you know what parallel streams?
Yes, there are like two kinds of stream. One is sequential stream and one is parallel stream. So sequential stream executes in the order that is getting, like the list gets executed in the sequential manner, and parallel stream doesn't guarantee the order. So it can be executed it can act upon any object on the stream in the collection list, and it will execute. So basically we go for parallel stream when we don't have any dependency between the objects. Like any object in the list can be independently, if it can independently handle, then we can go with parallel stream.
Okay, that's fine. So do you know what try with resource?
Yes.
What is it?
So basically if we are using the resource classes which are implementing auto closable in the try block, and then we don't need to explicitly close that in the catch or finally block, that will get automatically closed once the execution is done.
Okay, that's fine. So can we pass string as a resource?
String as a resource?
Yeah, in try block, can we pass string as a resource?
I didn't. In try block, can we pass string?
In try with resource, you said that the classes which implement that auto-closable interface, so that will be used in try with resource, right? So I'm saying that can we use string?
Stream using or string class? STRNG?
Yeah, string class. Can we use string class in a resource? Try block.
So we can use it because basically it is not a stream that needs to be closed, or that we can use. Nothing will happen to.
Okay, that's fine. So suppose I have class A, okay,
yeah,
which has method M1, okay. I have another class B, which is extending A,
okay.
So I have same method M1 in that class B. So my requirement is I want to call both methods. So how I can do that?
Like from where we need to call those both methods? So if at all we are...
Either you can create you can create A class object, or you can create B class object. But my requirement is I want to call both parent and child class.
We can call we can create a object of B class, and with the super keyword we can call the A class object, like A class method as well, and with the B class reference we can call the B class method as well.
Where you add super keyword?
So before the method reference super of that class name, that method name.
In which class?
So any other class where I am creating the object.
Okay, that's fine. So, do you know method hiding?
Method hiding?
Yeah.
Yes.
What is that?
So basically, like the above, the before example, what you said, if you are having same methods with the same thing in both parent and child classes, then the parent class gets method gets hidden.
Mm-hmm. So how we can implement it in Java?
Like I didn't get like how we implement in the sense.
Means how you can use that method hiding feature in Java?
So we are having the same methods in both the classes, right? So if you are having class A with M1 method, class B with M1 method, and if class B is extending class A, then class A method gets hidden, right?
Okay. So do you know about covariant return type?
Oh no.
Okay, that's fine. So can we have a constructor in interface?
Constructor in interface? No, we cannot have constructor in interface.
Okay, that's fine. So which collection you have worked upon?
Hash map array list is the more frequently used thing.
Okay, can you tell me how hash map internally works?
So basically hash map works on the principle of hashing. So whenever we call a put method with key and value pair, a hash code is gets generated on the key, and based on the hash code an index is calculated. Like basically hash map internally have a bucket of things. So based on the index, this key value pairs go and sits in that bucket. So whenever we get perform a get operation, again hash code is performed on the hash code is calculated on the key, and again an index is generated. It will go to that index and it will see if it is a single object there, it will directly return. If there are multiple key value pairs, entry class is residing there, so it will then the equals method comes into the picture and see for the equality of the key, and whenever it matches it will return that object.
Okay, that's fine. So do you know what is hashing collision?
Yeah, hash collision occurs when the scenario which I said, the hash when two different keys are generating the same hash code.
Okay. So how we can overcome?
So hash collision can be overcome by either we have to implement our hash code in a very good manner, but there are chances like 0.001 chances that still the hash collision can occur. So here comes the equals method into picture. So based on like our customization, say if it is an employee object, based on what all features like employee name, ID, date of birth, we can define a key in such a way that if these are getting matched, then the object is same. So there the equals method checks for the equality and returns the object correctly.
Okay, that's fine. So suppose I have one hash map, okay? So let's say key is in string format and value is in integer form.
Okay.
Okay, I have some values, some key value pairs in hash map, some random key value pairs in hash map, random numbers in place of value. Okay.
Okay.
So I want to sort that hash map on the basis of value.
On the basis of value? Okay.
How I can do that?
On the basis of values, we have to sort. Key, we know the key set we'll get all the keys, but how to get values? Comparator, we comes into picture. Comparator, passing key. Values, based on values, never tried this. Based on values, hash map sorting, comparable, right now I'm not getting the solution for that.
Okay, that's fine. So have you worked on any concurrent collection?
Concurrent hash map I have worked.
why we use concurrent hash map?
So basically, the problem with the hash map is whenever a thread is acting on it, the entire hash map gets synchronized. So only one thread can act upon that hash map. To overcome this problem, so concurrent hash map came into picture where only a part of the segment can be blocked and remaining segments can be accessible by multiple threads. So this is a benefit, this is a huge benefit we get when we go for multi-thread in the multi-threading environment. So the performance increases a bit.
Okay. So have you worked on multi-threading?
Yes.
Do you know about executor framework?
Yes.
Why we use executor framework?
So basically, instead of creating threads by ourselves, just by having the executor dot new fixed, if you are going with the fixed thread pool of size something like 10 or 5, so those threads gets created and it will be handled by the executor framework. Instead of we handling the entire thread concept, the executor framework handles this, so making our job easy to just concentrate on the logic. So once we pass an runnable object to it, so it will execute and it will be entirely taken care by the executor framework there.
Okay. Do you know about future object?
Future object?
Yeah.
No, I heard, but I haven't used that one.
Okay.
Asynchronous blocks usually returns the future object, but I never worked on that one.
Okay, that's fine. So, do you know about reintent locking mechanism?
Sorry, what?
Reintent locking mechanism.
No.
Okay. So, have you ever used lock interface?
No, I haven't used lock interface as well.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. So there are two methods in thread: wait, notify, and notify all.
Wait, notify. Yeah.
You know about that?
Yeah, these are actually in object class.
Oh, why they are in object class?
So actually, they are called on objects, so that's the reason they are in the object class. So though they came into picture in the multi-threading environment, but they act upon the object, so that is the reason they are on the object class.
Okay, that's fine. So you work on Hibernate?
Hibernate, no. From past 7 months, I am working on Eclipse Link, but prior to that, I worked on Migrant.
So you work on Spring Boot, GIT repository. So you worked as a full stack developer or how?
Yeah, I worked as a full stack developer.
So you don't have experience in Hibernate?
No, I don't have experience in Hibernate.
Can you tell me about microservice architecture?
So microservice architecture is simplifying the monolithic design by cut shorting the dependency on the entire one ER. Instead of monolithic design, we are designing an individual services which are which will be used for only one purpose. So if at all there is if I am updating any object class, any employee somewhere, so I can have a microservices of zip code. So once I enter the zip code, it should fetch from which city which city that zip code belongs to. So in a simple word, that zip microservice will have only one function. It will just pick the city based on the input pin number, like that. So that is how we divide our application, based on each service will have only one work to do.
Okay. So what are the disadvantages of microservices?
Here the testing is a bit problem. I feel testing, whenever there is multiple dependencies on different, one microservice is calling other services, and that is in turn calling other services, then the testing is a bit problem, because we cannot even that to design that is a bit problem, because we have to make user wait, or else we have to make this an asynchronous call, and again we have to notify the user if that has been failed or that was successful, and even the logging is a bit problem to log the exact from which machine that is getting logged.
Okay. So can you explain me about the Spring MVC flow?
Spring MVC flow.
Yeah.
Worked
on Spring or not?
I worked on Spring. And Spring MVC, like it's been 5 years plus I worked on Spring MVC architecture. Spring model controller. I'm not getting right now about Spring MVC.
Okay. So you worked on Spring Boot recently, right?
Yeah, Spring Boot I worked.
So in Spring Boot, actually, why we use Spring Boot?
So basically, it is used for like what I can say, rapid production development ready code can be generated. Yeah, basically it helps huge for developers. Like a lot of boiler code can be removed from here, like, by having few dependencies, starter dependencies. We'll be having good set of it will in turn download a good set of dependencies which will be helpful in developing the application faster. And apart from that, it has servers, internal server, which can be used where when we start the application, the code gets deployed, and to test the APIs, it would be easy for us. So for that purpose.
Okay. How do you integrate Hibernate with Spring Boot?
Spring Boot, like any JPA can be.
Not Hibernate, sir.
Yeah, any JPA can be.
Simple JDBC, how you can integrate?
So any JDBC or JPA connections can be done by having the respective dependency defined in the POM and respective properties defined in the application.properties.
Okay. So do you know what repository is?
A repository, there is repository class you're saying? Annotation or?
Yeah, repository annotation.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what CRUD repository and JP repository?
I know about there is repository, like any query related things.
Repository interface. Repository annotation. Do you know about that?
Yes, we basically annotate the classes with repository, where we are having the direct interaction with the DB, like writing any like what I can say queries there inside the classes. There we go with this annotation.
Okay. Do you know about actuators?
Oh yes, actuator I know. So basically, like to check the real time, what I can say, to check the real time health of the application, like not only health, different matrices can be seen there with the help of actuator. So we'll be exposing different, like actuator helps us in getting different URLs to check the health, to check the number of beans that has been created at that moment in the application, and all those things. So for that we need to have actuator dependency first, then we need to configure that in the application properties as well, like mechanism security actuator enable true, like that we have to keep.
Okay, have you implemented any security in your application?
So we have implemented using JWT token. So here the scenario was like once the user gets logged in, so based on the user login time and the user roles, we create a JWT token and keep that in our cache. We used to keep that in our cache, and we used to send back the JWT token to the user, to the calling user. So from the next respective call, the UI has to send that JWT token in the request. So firstly, we in the JWT filter, we will validate that JWT token is valid or not. If it is valid, then only we will allow him to access the APIs. So that is how we.
Okay. So do you know about the structure of the JWT token?
Structure of JWT token?
Yeah.
Structure. How is it? Structure.
Okay.
Not getting right now. Structure of JWT.
Okay, that's fine. So, JW token, JWT, you said that JWT token, you are storing it in cache, right?
Yes, yes.
So, suppose in some cache, if somebody hack that system and get that JWT token, then we can access that particular link or login.
Yes.
Sorry?
Yes, if we have if a valid JWT token is passed, definitely we can have access to the API. So, but the question is how a cache can be hacked, because it is maintained for short period. So
no, anyway, from short period, if you are storing it in cache, there might be a possibility from browser anybody can get that.
Yeah, there are chances to get that.
Ultimately, you have to store it in browser cache, right?
Yes, at the UI end, it is getting stored in the browser cache.
Yeah. So anybody can hack.
Yes, anybody can hack it.
Not a big deal.
Yeah.
So how you can make it secure so that nobody can get access to particular JWT token, or if somebody gets the JWT token, they won't be able to access.
I really never thought about this, like hacking of JWT token and accessing. How can we stop it?
Okay. From database side, how comfortable you are?
I'm good at writing queries, like not into PLSQL thing, but writing queries using joins. I'm good at it.
So, have you written any stored procedures, functions?
Oh no, I never wrote those things.
Okay. Do you know about self-join?
Oh yes.
What is it?
So basically, we are joining a table by itself. Like the scenario is like there are n employees, and employees having an ID and a manager ID. Both, but all the data is stored in same table. With manager and normal guy. So in that scenario, if I want to fetch manager ID, like manager name or manager ID with employee, then we will go with the self join there.